Grandfather, you're right. I think I should be protected from harm, but Kevin is nothing to us. It doesn't matter what happens to him. Ethan was grateful that Kevin would take this enormous risk and not him. The other family members who were in the room echoed Ethan's opinion. One of them commented, "Yes, Kevin's blood would be better off in Grandpa's body. It would be payment for all the years the family supported him." Another one remarked, "I wish I could offer my blood to Grandpa, but unfortunately I don't have the right type." You could hear them all chattering up and down the hall. Kevin started to sneer as he looked around the room at all of his relatives, who were literally demanding his blood. "Kevin!" Of course, Thomas understood what his father was asking them to do. If you'd asked him the day before, he probably would have agreed. But now that he knew what Laura had done, he felt incredibly guilty and was concerned about his nephew. But he had to keep what his wife had done a secret from the rest of the family. There was no turning back now. "Kevin, did you hear that? The decision is unanimous, but don't worry. After you donate your blood to your grandfather, we'll give you some money for your troubles. You get to do the right thing and also profit from it. Wouldn't that be a nice change?" Laura sneered as she spoke to Kevin. "Don't you think I can tell when I'm being manipulated?" Kevin grumbled. "I'll do the transfusion, but not because you're ordering me to. I've been cut off from the family for too long to care what you think. I'm doing this for my grandfather to repay his kindness to me over the years." The whole room suddenly quieted down, and no one said a word to refute what Kevin had said. "Thank you, Kevin. You don't know how happy this makes me. If the operation is successful and you and I are still alive, let's put the past behind us. You can even bring your parents back to the mansion," Grandpa Williams said excitedly. "Blood is thicker than water." Suddenly, Dalton Steele pushed his way through the crowd. The big burly man was seething in anger. "Dalton, what are you doing in New York?" Kevin asked in surprise. "Never mind that. Just come with me," Dalton snarled as he looked around at Kevin's relatives. None of the Williamses said a word. They avoided making any eye contact with Dalton. After all, they'd just seen how ferocious Dalton could be when he came to the family mansion. "Dalton, this is none of your business. What are you doing here?" Laura asked him angrily. She was afraid that if Kevin left, her son would have to offer to do the transfusion for Randall. She didn't care how dangerous Dalton was. She was trying to protect her son. "We haven't forgotten the trouble you caused for us, and we're not afraid of the Steele family." "Really? Not afraid of my family?" Dalton looked at Laura with disdain. "If you think you're strong enough, why don't you come to Chicago and see how that turns out for you?" "Calm down, Dalton." Kevin knew just how bad his friend's temper could be. "Are you nuts, Kevin? Have you already forgotten what they did to you?" Dalton roared loudly. "I know the Williams family can be vicious, but I can't forget their kindness to me when I was younger. They raised me until I was 20, Kevin explained to Dalton. But he also knew that nobody in the room was as good as his buddy. Then some of Kevin's relatives got over their fear and started to argue with Dalton. "You're screwing everything up. Kevin's willing to offer a blood transfusion to his grandfather. What gives you the right to stand in the way?" Another one yelled, "We just want him to donate some blood, not kill him." Then Ethan walked over to Dalton and sneered. "Just because you're important in Chicago, that doesn't mean anything here. Nobody wants your opinion. Besides, if Kevin helps Grandpa, what's it to you? Even if the procedure injures him, he's unimportant. I'm sorry, but he can just go back to living off his in-laws." "Who the hell are you? Nobody talks to me like that." Then Dalton grabbed Ethan by the neck and slapped him in the face. The whole room was silent, but nobody stepped forward to interfere. "How dare you hit me?" Ethan gnashed his teeth and glared at Dalton. He couldn't believe this was happening to him. He'd never been treated this way in his entire life, and now there were so many people watching. What would they think of him? "I'm gonna beat the crap out of you," Dalton said viciously. "Mr. Steele, aren't you going too far?" Thomas was on the verge of tears as he pleaded with Dalton. He felt helpless against this powerful man. "Are you Kevin's uncle? So you're the head of the Williams family now," Dalton shouted ferociously. Listen to me carefully. As long as I'm alive, none of you will ever bully Kevin again. Don't forget that you're the ones who drove him out of your family, and now you're actually forcing him to give you his blood. Hey, who put you in charge? Laura snarled at him menacingly. If you want Kevin, you'll have to get him over my dead body, Dalton retorted. Come on, everyone, Laura roared loudly. Let's show this guy what happens to someone who sticks his nose in our family's business. They all jumped up, ready to fight. Now that they'd been training with the myriads, a lot of them had gotten a lot stronger and more skilled. We'll see about that. Dalton punched the wall. His fists were like hammers, and the entire room shook from the force of the blows. The Williamses all gasped in terror. They could clearly see 2 large dents in the masonry wall. No one doubted that if Dalton had punched harder, he would have broken through into the next room. Who isn't afraid to die? Come and get me! Dalton shouted so loudly that everyone near him took a step back, cowering in fear. I've never seen Dalton like this. Kevin was surprised at his friend's power. What he didn't know is that ever since Dalton took the power pill, his training had improved by leaps and bounds. He was already impressive before, and now his strength was absolutely overwhelming. None of Kevin's relatives was able to respond. They stood there with their mouths hanging open, unable to move. Don't be so arrogant, Dalton. Do you really think we're all that weak? Grandpa Williams sneered. Even though he was very weak from the poison, Grandpa Williams found the strength to challenge Dalton. Just because the Steele family has a huge influence in Chicago, don't think that you can come to New York and meddle in our family's affairs. If you mess with us, it'll end badly for you. From what I understand, the procedures could harm Thomas or Ethan. But did you give any thought to Kevin's feelings? Dalton sneered. Why don't you let your children and grandchildren learn how to lead by example? I can't believe you're making such a dumbass decision. If this is the best you can do, Kevin would be a lot better off without you. You! Grandpa Williams was so angry his body was shaking. Thomas quickly went to the bed and patted him on the shoulder to try and calm him down. Look what you've done now, Kevin. Did you bring your friend here just to upset your grandfather? Laura scolded him. Do you really want to make him angry? I think you should apologize to Grandpa right now. Why don't you apologize? Dalton shouted back. Suddenly they all heard someone burst into the room and shout, How dare you make trouble for the family again? Kevin was shocked to hear this, and he could feel the energy of the woman who was standing in the doorway. She stared expressionlessly at Kevin. It was Ariana Titus.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.